I will now call the January 7th, 2025 organizational and general legislative session of the San Diego County Board of Supervisors meeting to order. We would like to take a moment to acknowledge the land we call home. There are communities in the San Diego region that face unjust conditions and circumstances related to the environments in which they live. The tribal nations of the San Diego region are one example of a community that has historically faced such injustices. We acknowledge the harmony that exists between the land, nature, and its original peoples who have since endured displacement, persecution, and systemic oppression. We pay our respect to the territory and homelands of the 18 tribal nations in our region, the most in any county in the United States. We aspire to learn from indigenous traditional knowledge and experiences in addressing the injustices of the past. Andrew, can you please call the roll for today's session?
Thank you, Vice Chair Lawson-Remer. Supervisor Anderson.
Here.
Supervisor Montgomery Stepp.
Here.
Supervisor Desmond.
Here.
Vice Chair Lawson-Remer.
Here. We will have Pastor Dan Cashel deliver the invocation. Following the invocation, Pastor Dan Cashel will also deliver the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand for the invocation and the pledge.
Let us join our hearts in a spirit of prayer. Holy One, we come before you today with gratitude for the opportunity to serve this vibrant and diverse community. We ask for your wisdom to guide each decision, your peace to ground every discussion, and your compassion to help us hear the voices and concerns of those we serve. Grant the strength and courage needed to tackle the pressing challenges facing our county and the foresight to plan for a future that uplifts all people. May our deliberations be marked by fairness, humility, and a shared commitment to justice and equity. And finally, we pray for peace in our world, in our homes, and within our hearts, so that we may be instruments of that peace in all that we do. With reverence for all faiths and traditions, we lift this prayer with hope and purpose. Amen.
Amen.
Now I invite you to join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated.
Okay, thank you. So we will begin with item 1, selection of chair, vice chair, and chair pro tem of the 2025 Board of Supervisors. The charter requires a vote on this matter within 30 days of the beginning of the year. If no one is selected, previous occupants of the role will roll over. In the absence of a chair, the vice chair has full authority to act as chair. Andrew, could you please add any additional details that we need to understand?
Thank you, Vice Chair Lawson-Remer. You're correct. The Charter and the Board's Rules of Procedure require that the Board select a chair, vice chair, and chair pro tem at their first meeting in January or within 30 days of a vacancy or 30 days thereafter. That same 30-day time frame exists when there is a vacancy. The Board's Rules of Procedure, Rule 5, dictate the process for the selection of the Board's officers, as well as how vacancies are handled. It specifies that during the absence of the chair, the vice chair shall preside, and the same occurs for the chair pro tem in the absence of the chair and vice chair. Until the Board votes to select new officers, the existing officers would remain, with Vice Chair Lawson-Remer serving as chair and Chair Pro Tem Anderson serving as vice chair. The method of nomination and selection of chair, vice chair, and chair pro tem will be at the discretion of the Board. The Board may solicit nominations for the chair or for a slate of chair, vice chair, and chair pro tem. Any nominations must have a second, and if the person nominated declines the position, the nomination will be withdrawn. Upon successful election of a chair, the balance of the meeting or the nomination for vice chair, if no slate of officers was elected, will be conducted by the incoming chair.
Thank you. First, I will turn to my colleagues if they have any comments, and then we will turn to public comment. Do my colleagues have any comments at this time? Okay, thank you. Do we have any public comment?
Thank you, Vice Chair Lawson-Remer. We have 19 requests to speak on this item, 7 in person and 12 requesting to speak by phone. Also note for the record that we received 1 e-comment that was a neutral e-comment. Any individuals that requested to speak on item 1 by phone, please dial into the conference line using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll begin with the in-person speakers, starting with those in favor of this item. As your name is called, please come forward and stand on the arrows until it is your turn to speak at the podium. I'll be calling you in groups of 3, so I'll ask you to please listen for your name. We'll begin with those in favor of this item. You'll have, because we have 10 or more speakers on this item, you'll have 1 minute to address the board. We'll ask you to please begin by stating your name for the audio record. I'd like to first invite forward Cesar Javier, Crystal Irving, and Catherine Rhodes. I've called your name. Please come forward.
Happy New Year. Cesar Javier. Happy policy changes as we glide on time, state, and condition. I understand that this is item number 1. Yes, there must be a change based on this change in time, state, and condition. But please bear with us. Excuse me? Somebody? Oh, I'm sorry. I was... But please, let's bear in our decision-making that we have to consider human dimensions, not the physical one, but more on the moral dimension of the human decision-makers, like the chair or vice chair or any leadership in the committees.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good morning. My name is Crystal Irving, and I'm proud to serve as president of SEIU Local 221, representing about 10,000 plus county workers here in our region. Definitely in support of selecting a chair and a vice chair today. It is imperative that the work of the county continues, even in the face of unpredictability and things that we did not anticipate starting our 2025 on. And I just also want to state that we are in support of Tara Lawson-Remer serving as chair of this board, as well as Monica Montgomery Stepp serving as vice chair of this board. It's just going to be really imperative that we have strong leadership as we move things forward, such as addressing housing and homelessness, mental health and behavioral health, and of course supporting our county workers who are actively in contract negotiations now. So thank you so much, again, in favor of this item. Thank you.
Thank you. As the next speaker is coming forward, I'd like to invite 3 additional speakers in opposition: Michael Brando, Mark, and Alan C. I've called your name. Please come forward.
Hello, Catherine Rhodes, and I would have actually liked, before we started this, if the people who wanted to say they want to be chair actually said it so we know who wants to be chair. I know that Tara Lawson-Remer wants to be chair, of course, but I didn't know if anybody else wants to. So for Tara Lawson-Remer, I think that would be great. One thing is that, I live in your district, and I still haven't ever gotten a meeting with you. I would like to get a meeting with you because we could do so much between you and Anthony Shelton. I could show you, and it would benefit Monica Montgomery Stepp so much. I could show you the cash. I could show you how we could take care of business, how we could help the homeless, how we could get, instead of, let's say, a Hope and Vine that nobody wants, we could get 1,000 people over in the Silver Strand parking lot right now for free. It's our state land. We own it. We could do so much. Please get a meeting with me. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
It's not free when the taxpayers still got to pay for the damn thing. Okay, right now we're at a stalemate. We
Sir,
got
can you please state your name?
Okay, if you back my time up, please. My name's Alan C. Yeah, right now we're at a stalemate. We have 2 GOP, 2 Democrat. It shouldn't be about party. It should be about the people. And yet you smiled when that union rep came up here. You know more than 99% of the people you represent are not union government workers. Why don't you start repping them? I call on this chair, I call on this board to make the right decision, to pick for the people, because Sandag right now is looking at converting every freeway lane into toll lanes. Yes, it's on the 2025 regional plan. This one here. 78% of the total revenue for 125, the working class people. It's happening. You're actually tolling people twice, 3 times, 4 times when Transnet promised that the roads would be free. And yet it's not happening. Look at the email I sent you. I sent you a video of Tom Homan. He's coming after Vargas. That's why she stepped down, because you guys broke the law. You didn't show up, Joe. Why didn't you show up to vote against the super sanctuary city?
Thank you. Next speaker, please. As the next speaker is coming forward, I'd like to invite our final speaker in person, allegedly Audra.
A username Michael. I suggest that every last one of you step down. This is such a ridiculous, outrageous charade, a clown show. Tara, you've always been late to meetings. You've mocked people. You've not paid attention to people. But now that you've got this temporary throne, and we know you will be elected chair, you're just full of this bravado. The good news is that you're going to self-implode faster than Nora Vargas. You think it can't touch you. It's on its way. Monica, you're in the queue next. You have talked about how we have to acknowledge things the way things are, but you're very selective about what you want to acknowledge the truth. You have a beautiful smile, and in other contexts, you may be a really nice person, but all of you are practicing evil, and it's going to come down upon you. It's not anything people do. It's going to organically happen to you. The hot potato goes back to sender.
Next speaker, please.
Mark, Tara Lawson-Remer is a complete tyrant. Right after taking your oath yesterday, you literally talked about the gun laws and the violation of our Constitution that you've committed. And here's 2 articles, titles, recent. Democratic Gov who vows to fight Trump border enforcement outraged by migrant using shelter for criminal activity, which happened to be fentanyl, and he was well armed, and cocaine. And Dem Gov who vows to fight, oh, excuse me, that's the same one. So anyway, your gun laws, you've made it so the poor can't defend themselves. Climate change, that's just being used against the people. Thousands of people have literally frozen to death, literally in Europe, from these same types of policies. And like getting rid of gas heaters, that's going to kill people on limited incomes, seniors. And Jim was right, 2 minutes is a minimum for speaking time. You're a tyrant.
Next speaker, please.
My person uses the name Audra. We're going to have more of the same. I would like to second what Michael said. All of you should step down before Tom Homan comes after each and every one of you and gives you all a jail cell for all of the crimes that you've been committing for years. And it's sad because it's going to be you, Tara, who's chair. You're going to be vice chair. He's going to be vice chair pro tem or whatever. And Jim's just going to vote it through because it's so sad. Nobody has any cojones to be like, no, I'm going to stand against this kind of stuff. Because you sit here and you silence the people. And you act like you're doing it because you want to hear more. There's only 5 items on the agenda today, and you're still giving us a minute. And then you sit up there and you go on your diatribes and you guys say whatever you want. But you don't really care what the people have to say, and you have to push the United Nations agenda. And you will pay for it. So remember that. You will self-implode way quicker than Nora and Nathan. So go ahead. It's going to be fun to watch.
We'll now hear from those that requested to speak by phone. When it is your turn to speak, you will be unmuted and you will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. I'll remind the callers they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking. We will start with our first caller.
Hey, Consuelo here. So, yeah, that was a great performance yesterday, Remer. You have so many fools, except for the few who are paying close attention. You've got the media. You've even had Democratic mayors, dropping endorsements for Vargas, as if we don't know who's going to take that seat. We know you want the Imperial Beach mayor to take that seat. What else? Yeah, it's disgusting. It's sad that we're in this situation, but I mean, what else to be expected? You got the media, like I said, the corrupt media that will also eventually implode, self-implode, because the people are being fed so many lies, and eventually the media better start acting accordingly, because the people are fed up with the lies, they're fed up with these politicians, they're fed up with the corruption, and we keep...
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead and state your name.
Paul Bold. Last year, I was the first to welcome Monica to the board. I advised her to listen to both sides of an issue. This year, let me be the first to welcome Nora to life after the board. Cutting off speakers' last sentences, calling people off topic when they're not, pushing agenda items to the next day when many speakers can't be there, simply makes everyone angrier. The one-sided push to enshrine half-baked ideas in the county's ordinances, as they mean so much in the scheme of things, destroys trust. It's a great opportunity to correct these failures of the past. Listening consistently to both sides is a great start. I'd say Jim is the best at this. The board is split between conservatives and ultra-liberals. A great time to listen to the people. Good ideas from both sides, hopefully without the name-calling, the meanness, the false narratives, and the media.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
Good morning, Peggy Walker. As a public health advocate, I asked you to appoint a chair who understands the will of the people and is sympathetic to public health, especially health and mental health issues confronting our youth. That would include an understanding of the alarmingly harmful impact of intoxicating drugs on young people today, from fentanyl passing through our border to widespread harms of high-potency THC. Also, the uncontrolled sales of illegal intoxicating THC and psilocybin-infused products that are flooding small retail outlets from gas stations to smoke shops and convenience stores throughout our county. And disparities grow. Sources identify Latino girls 11 to 16 as the fastest growing age group in terms of marijuana use in San Diego. To date, this board has focused on marijuana dispensaries.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
Pam, what a mess. Courtesy of Nora, Tara, and Monica. Tara and Monica support the Super Sanctuary County along with Nora. Therefore, it's feasible Tara and or Monica may not be available to carry out their duties based on letter dated December 23rd, 2024, addressed to Nora Vargas, page 4, quote, because your jurisdiction, sanctuary laws, or policies usually require multiple officials to coordinate their activities, all such officials could be criminally liable under multiple federal criminal conspiracy statutes, unquote. This letter is public record. Tara and Monica are not suitable to serve, let alone lead in the chair capacities. They both prioritize convicted, violent, criminal, illegal foreigners above the safety of American citizens and legal residents in this county. On a different note, it could be said the chair position is cursed as the last two individuals resigned in disgrace. The next chair position will be a spectacle to behold. We could hold a betting pool to see how long it'll take before the resignation occurs.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Hi, fucking cunts. This is Justin Castro, a.k.a. Gambler and Hermes. Hey, I love the fact that Nora Vargas is a very intelligent individual. She used the blackmail that was provided from Monica and Tara to get Cindy Chavez elected, a white woman, not a black woman, elected by sending out that WhatsApp app. Well, she decided to waste our money by spending $42,000 a year to have a security blanket, wonderful security blanket. That way, if Trump won, she could just claim her life is in danger, when it really wasn't, because that case is already over. We have Ebony, not Cindy, probably because I called Cindy's office and I told her that I'm going after you guys for election fraud, and the fact that you guys took off a meeting to throw me in jail, to keep me quiet.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. My name is Becky Rapp, and I appreciate this opportunity to comment regarding a new chair and vice chair being voted onto this board. This is an opportunity for a fresh start, an opportunity to work with the public, showing respect and dignity. I would suggest that Supervisor Jim Desmond be voted as chair. It's important that this board have a representative who recognizes the importance of public health, public safety, and the public will of the people. The public appreciates that Supervisor Desmond respects the fact that the public deserve a voice. We need a chair who will value the voice of the people, allowing them to speak and allowing them to be heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
It's truth. FBI is cute to pretend they didn't know when they're the ones who contributed to why Nora fled. So this is a rigged game, but why Tara can't be chosen as chair. In only 5 months, Tara's cost the county over $45,000 for her private security, even though she rarely shows up to meetings. She's been bringing them with them on her days off. Anyone can confirm that in PRA 24-3623. On September 24th, Tara arbitrarily gave a CEO 3 minutes to speak for a deal that failed. That is misuse of county resources. She cannot be chair. On April 30th, Tara allowed the unions to engage in a meeting insurrection in this chamber. Repeated discriminatory enforcement of the rules means Tara is unfit for chair or for any public office, as proven in my December 10th censure call, where she was disrespectfully gorging a burrito, perhaps provided by those unions. Tara is also the most impatient on this board, which means she can't be chair because she's going to fall fast next, guaranteed. There's no qualified leaders on this board. That's why they're falling. And Tara's media attacks have all failed to silence free speech.
Thank you. Now hear from the final caller.
Stephanie Becker. If you're not going to hold a special election now that Nora has abandoned District 1 and anyone that had anything in working with District 1 to complete their homes after the flood has been ignored. Half the staff has left. Nobody got any notification. Even her staff was blindsided. A special election should be held, and Nora Vargas should be paying for it, not the taxpayers. Since she ran a campaign, took people's money, and is now not fulfilling her job, which thankfully she is not. If you're not going to hold a special election, you need to appoint Jim Desmond, because he's the only one that cares about the people. He's the only one that is different from the rest of you. The eating on the dais needs to be stopped. The lack of response and respect to the people needs to be stopped. And Spring Valley needs one representative that can care for the community. Monica's district is a disaster. Monica's office doesn't respond to the people. I don't know why it's taking...
Vice Chair Lawson-Remer, that concludes public comment on this item.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Montgomery Stepp.
Thank you so much. I think a lot has been said by the public. I want to thank the public for coming out and speaking on this item. At this time, I would like to nominate Tara Lawson-Remer for chair and myself for vice chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Supervisor Desmond?
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I'd like to make a substitute motion to nominate myself. I guess not even a substitute because I haven't heard a second. I'd like to make a motion to nominate myself as chair. I'm the longest serving member of this board, been on this board for 6 years. District 5 has not held the chair or vice chair position for over 4 years. The unincorporated areas the largest area that we represent, where we are their representatives, has had no chair for 5 years. And if we go with with Monica, are you two done? Thank you. If we go with the previous motion, then it will be, if each of you serve 1 year, that'd be 7 years that the unincorporated area will not have a chair. And if you each go do 2 years, which has been the track record of the past here, the recent past, it'll be 9 years before the unincorporated area even catches sight of being a chair or vice chair, having a representation. 4 years ago, when I was the incoming vice chair, my district and I were stripped of 90% of our committee positions. North County has the largest unincorporated landmass and has been unrepresented in the chair position. And I think if you want a fresh start, we should equally share in the chair and vice chair positions on this board for our districts.
Thank you, Supervisor Desmond. I'd like to turn to Andrew Potter. We had a motion on the floor. Sir, we have a second, but we have a problem. So, Andrew, could you please explain?
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor by Supervisor Montgomery Stepp. This time, that is the motion that's on the floor, waiting for a second until there is a determination of whether that motion dies for lack of a second or there is a second. The motion that you just made, Supervisor Desmond, would be out of order. We need to handle
You can't have a substitute motion until there's a second to the first motion. So, okay, I will second Supervisor Montgomery Stepp's motion. Then you could make a substitute motion. Now we have a second from Joel, and then we could have a vote on yours. If that passes, it passes. If it doesn't, then it goes to Monica's first motion. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Great. So just to summarize, Supervisor Montgomery Stepp made a motion for me as chair and herself as vice chair. I have seconded it. Supervisor Desmond has made a motion for himself as chair. And Supervisor Anderson has seconded it, and now that's the motion on the floor.
I got a question for Andrew then. So was my motion, I guess, was moot when I made it. So I need to make it again?
No, because I seconded Monica's.
Okay, but I did that before the second. So
It's fine. It's fine. Yep. This is
I'd like
the chair's call.
To be honest with you, I'd like to read my whole speech again, but okay.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor by Supervisor Desmond. Can you restate the motion, Andrew?
The motion by Supervisor Desmond, seconded by Supervisor Anderson, is to select Supervisor Desmond as chair.
Okay. Can we please call the vote?
And Vice Chair Lawson-Remer, that motion fails due to the lack of affirmative votes, and that is a tie vote with Supervisor Desmond and Supervisor Anderson voting aye, and Vice Chair Lawson-Remer and Supervisor Montgomery Stepp voting no.
Thank you. So now we go to the original motion on the floor. Can you please call the vote on that motion?
Thank you. Vice Chair Lawson-Remer, that motion fails due to the lack of affirmative votes, with Supervisor Anderson abstaining and Supervisor Desmond voting no. All of those supervisors who are present voting aye.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have any other motions on the floor at this time? Okay. Well, thank you all very much. I mean, as we know, this is going to come back again next meeting, so we're going to continue kind of trying to grapple with this question. I think this is an unsurprising outcome of having being in the situation that we sit in currently. So as Vice Chair, I will continue to preside as Chair of the County Board of Supervisors, and just as I've done in previous instances when the Chair has been absent, I will continue to fully fulfill all the duties and obligations of this role as described in the County Charter. And I look forward to working with Pro Tem Joel Anderson in his role as Acting Vice Chair until such a time as successors are chosen for this role. I do want to say before we recess that I have noticed over the last couple years a lot of folks coming to these meetings with concerns over how these meetings are run, and I really would like to take this as an opportunity to have a fresh start and really ensure that we can work with the public for people to be treated with respect and dignity. So I would love to meet with anyone who wants after our meeting, not just now because we have to reconvene at 10 o'clock, but after the board meeting today. I will go over to the overflow room, and if anyone wants to come and talk about how we can make these meetings run in a way that is more respectful or more inclusive, so long as I'm the acting chair, I want to do my best to make sure that everyone feels like these meetings are fair, and I want to hear from you, and I want to do what I can. So please come, and if there's people who have called in today and they're not here and they might want to participate, please let them know, and we will have 30 minutes before closed session and after the end of the meeting today to talk a little bit about how we could make these meetings as inclusive and participatory and respectful as possible. And this extends to my colleagues as well, but obviously it's primarily for our public who has voiced many concerns over the last few years. So, with that, I just want to say I'm very much looking forward to working with all my colleagues and this board to continue improving our region. And we are now recessed, and we will come back at 10 o'clock. Thank you.
Board is in recess until 10 a.m.
welcome back. We will now proceed with non-agenda public communication. This is an opportunity for the public to address the board on subject matters within the board's jurisdiction, but not an item on our meeting agenda. The only action that the board may take is a referral to the Chief Administrative Officer. Under the board's rules, speakers can only speak once per meeting for non-agenda public communication, either at today's general legislative session or tomorrow's land use legislative session, but not at both sessions. Speakers may select which session to address the board at their own convenience. A reminder, according to Rule 4A, members of the public that are non-English speaking and need interpretation assistance will get twice the allotted time for their comments, which is 4 minutes. According to the board's rules of procedures, audience members shall not whistle, clap, stomp feet, or do anything that disrupts the proceedings. To better facilitate the meeting, we have 5 speakers in person, 5 speakers by phone, and the rest of non-agenda public communication will be heard at the close of today's session. Andrew, can you please call the speakers?
Thank you, Vice Chair Lawson-Remer. We have 26 requests to speak on matters not listed on the agenda, 12 in person, and 14 requesting to speak by phone. For those that requested to speak by phone, please dial into the conference line using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll begin with the in-person speakers, and as the Vice Chair indicated, in accordance with the board's rules of procedure, we'll hear from the first 5 speakers in person, while the remaining speakers will be heard at the conclusion of today's session. As your name is called, please come forward and stand on the arrows until it is your turn to speak at the podium. You will have 2 minutes to address the board. I'll ask you to begin by stating your name for the audio record. I'd like to invite forward the first 3 individuals, Alan C., Mark, and Cesar Javier. If I've called your name, please come forward.
Good morning again, Alan C. There's next week, I guess you have to agendize next week concerning whether you're going to go to appointment or special election. I'm calling out now during my non-agenda public comment that yes, we need to vote. The people need to decide special election only. No matter how much it costs, you get billions of grants for utter nonsense, but when it comes to the vote, protect our democracy. Yes, the people in the South Bay need to vote the replacement of that worthless piece of crap that left this office and did not swear in after she wasted hundreds of thousands of dollars of my tax money, and then she steps down right before Tom Homan's arrests her. How horrible is that? So yes, no matter how much it costs, the people in the South Bay need to vote a replacement. Not appointed by Joe, not appointed by you, Tara, or you, Montgomery, or you, Desmond. Only the people of that community needs to vote. That is so critical. Protect our democracy, make it happen. In addition, every option must be allowed, including in-person voting. If you shut off one voting procedure, you're disenfranchising a group of voters. That is wrong. Every voting option, special election, let the people decide in the South Bay who to vote for. Because as I mentioned, if you look it up, San Diego Regional Plan 2025, it actually states convert every existing freeway, take away freeway lanes, convert to managed lanes. Do you get the picture? Managed lanes are toll roads if you do not pay a toll. New York has already done it. They have a fast pass program. You go to the city of New York downtown, your fast pass gets deducted an additional $9 just for the pleasure of going downtown. Will that happen here? Will that happen in your city, every city, on roads that are already paid for through Transnet? And yet you want to tax us again and again and again? Remer, you rep over to Sandag, do something. It is wrong. Get that rescinded from the 2025 regional plan. Remove tax and road because the Coronado tolls.
Thank you. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Mark, recently Claudia Silva made false statements on item 36, and I quote, 1, is this really a violation of people's limited First Amendment rights in this forum? 2, when you get really, really loud, that can be very disruptive. It can really bother other people who are in attendance, who are trying to really listen to a meeting. 3, when you're at this business meeting, please conduct yourself in a manner that is respectful so that everybody has an opportunity to be heard. 4, then 2 minutes still remains, and it's a discretion issue, and that's a matter that you all, as a policy policy matter can decide that, right? 5, it doesn't remove a person's ability to comment, end quote. 1, yes, tyrants determining whether your interpretation is on topic while the tyrants demand your respect and allow 1 minute on complex, very important items is a violation of the Brown Act and people's First Amendment rights in this forum. 2, being loud during your allotted time does not disrupt anything, and other speakers can be heard in their time. Also, my First Amendment right remains, especially if someone is bothered. 3, I shall not be respectful when Tara, Nora, and Monica are forcing treasonous UN Agenda 21 goals, destroying our U.S. sovereignty. 4, Claudia Silva took 4.5 minutes to advise Nora on our First Amendment. Now, Claudia, try to make all your points in 1 minute, which is impossible. The Brown Act states that speakers be given a reasonable amount of time, and that is not at the chair's discretion. As Jim Desmond requested, 2 minutes is a bare minimum. You took 4.5, Claudia. This board's tyrannical disrespect frustrates speakers, so they sometimes continue a bit after your cruel 1 minute limit. 5, the Brown Act provides for anonymity. Those sanctions permitting teleconferencing remove a speaker's option to remain anonymous, which violates the Brown Act. Sending e-comments or written comments to be ignored is an insult to intelligence. That Claudia would join with Tara is a perversion of our First Amendment.
Thank you. Thank you. Your time is up. As the next speaker is coming forward, I'd like to invite the remaining speakers in person, Parita Javier and Eric Weber.
May we request Purita first?
Sure.
According to the chronology.
Hello. I am Purita Javier, senior with existing medical condition and a victim of ceramics kiln toxicity since 1999 or 97, located, constructed, and operated at 5238 Streamview Drive, San Diego, California, 92105, in a residential zone designated Community of City District Number 9. My late husband was a veteran and father figure of the couple, owner of the ceramics home business. He was 92 when he fell down in our backyard, broken his hip, in the hospital, brought to the hospital home. Few months later passed away quietly on February 25th, 2012. We were friends even after demise. In my residency, I observed smoke and even fume or odor coming from their side. My late husband many times cautioned me not to go near the direction of the ceramics facility. Curious, too, that our windows were permanently fastened and closed. In those years, I had no idea of what ceramics and its hazards. The COVID pandemic period 2020 and our curiosity.
Thank you. Your time is up. Next speaker, please.
Cesar Javier, this is a 40 years story of toxicity. And we did our part. We did the formal reporting June 13, 2012 to the police, HAZMAT, the fire, and they cannot investigate because it has a business tax permit. This is a failure in rule crafting. This is a failure of implementation. Imagine it was located, constructed, and operated in a residential zone designated area. Councilor Rivera, the one supported by Supervisor Steve, failed. Why? He is supposed to be the #1 solution maker. but he is the governing board member of the Air Pollution Control District, including the mayor, who wrongfully implemented the wrong rule. Look at the organizational charts of the Air Pollution Control District. Very clear, this is also a failure in the organizational structure. Director Forbes is in charge of the permit sphere, while the governing board is in charge of crafting and approving the rule. How could Councilor Rivera help us? In his letter, oh, we are going to help you. I'm going to let my staff conduct investigation. Code enforcement says, sir, there is no violation because of Rule 11, exempting ceramics kiln from permit. Bad, unacceptable. It's over 3 years and nothing positively but negative.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Sir, your time is up. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
My name is Eric Weber. Domestic violence is an epidemic. San Diego County must declare it as such. 95 Ontario municipalities have declared intimate partner violence an epidemic. Multiple Canadian provinces and territories have enacted specific legislation on family violence. Disturbingly, domestic violence often begins early in life. According to the National Institute of Justice, teen dating violence includes abuse, harassment, or stalking of any person ages 12 to 18. 69.5% of women experienced the first incident of abuse under the age of 24. 1 in 3 teens will experience physical intimate partner violence in their lifetime. In 2023, in San Diego County, there were a total of 16,666 domestic violence calls to police, nearly double the amount of 8,554 the year before. In 2023, the DA's office filed charges in only 1,892 cases. Why are there so few cases getting charges filed? And of those that are having charges filed, why are so many being dismissed? Victims are not feeling the love. Is the judicial system that broken? San Diego is known as America's finest. Let's live up to that. How can we be a part of the solution? We need to work together to fix this so that no one will ever again have to experience the horrors of domestic violence.
Thank you. We'll now hear from those that requested to speak by phone. Again, in accordance with the board's rules, we'll be hearing from the first 5 callers. The remaining callers will be heard at the conclusion of today's session. When it is your turn to speak, you will be unmuted and you will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. I'll remind the callers they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking. We will start with our first caller.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. My name is Becky Rapp. I'm a public health educator here today to speak to you regarding a serious public health concern regarding marijuana sold in California. A recent article published in the LA Times describes California's cannabis supply chain as having hidden pesticides and no public monitoring. This seems to be a reoccurring concern as the state has not yet figured out how to manage, monitor, or properly enforce safeguards implemented to protect the public. The public trusts that if a product is permitted to sell, then it is safe to consume. This fallacy was told to voters when the permitted marijuana industry was created. The Times analyzed hundreds of marijuana products and found that half of these products in California's permitted marijuana contain chemicals or hidden pesticides, chemicals that have no approved public safety monitoring procedure. A systematic monitoring procedure is crucial when testing products before being sold to the public. and marijuana should be required to be under the same scrutiny as other products on the market, such as lettuce and other vegetables. I suggest that this board reconsider any expansion of the marijuana market in our county. It's not good practice and imposes distrust on this board if you choose to move forward with an industry that negatively impacts public health with poisonous chemicals. Thank you.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
Good morning, members of the board. My name is Madison Rapp, and today I want to relay information from a recent study from the journal CNS Drugs about the mental health impacts of cannabis use. As cannabis use increases, both for recreational and medical purposes, we must understand the full spectrum of its effects, especially on those with psychiatric disorders. Frequent THC use has been linked to exacerbated symptoms of mood disorders, anxiety, psychosis, and PTSD, potentially making treatment more difficult or less effective. Studies show that youth and those with a genetic predisposition to mental health disorders are at a higher risk for negative outcomes related to cannabis use. This is particularly concerning as cannabis use becomes more normalized and accessible. Young people are learning that despite what they've been told, cannabis is addictive, and its use can create mental instability and long-term physical health problems. According to the CDC, 30% of marijuana users meet the clinical definition for having a cannabis use disorder. As we continue to elevate the implications of cannabis use in San Diego County, it is essential that we approach this issue with a clear understanding of the risks, particularly the long-term consequences for mental health and for young people. I urge this board to consider these findings in shaping policy and to pay attention to the research to ensure the health and well-being of our. Thank you.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
Pam, hi. It's interesting Nora resigned, citing being afraid for her personal safety and security, but yet she didn't think about the safety of this county for 1 second when she pushed the super sanctuary policy along with Tara and Monica. The American citizens and legal residents are on their own when it comes to their safety regarding this policy. Joel, today, please articulate your opinion on this policy and publish it on your county website. The super sanctuary policy must be revisited in the name of safety of this county. This policy needs to be vacated, reversed, erased, or whatever term you wish to use. American families must be protected against convicted, violent, criminal, illegal foreigners. See, remember on April 30th, 2024, when the SEIU held a stage riotous theatrical production infringing on the rights of the public for over 30 minutes without a warning issued by this court? Well, at this time, on a similar but very microscopic scale, as part of my remaining time for free speech, I invite anyone present in the chambers to join me in putting your hands together to applaud the resignation of Nora. Let's go. Let's go. Bye-bye. See you, Nora. Let's go, Jim, for chairman. No on Tara and Monica. Let's go. Woo, woo. Can't discriminate against me. You didn't warn SEIU. Remember? Remember? Woohoo! Let's go. Let's go. It's a new year. We can fight through this mess left by Nora, Tara, and Monica. Woohoo! Let's go. Yeah. Yeah. Woohoo! Bye-bye, Nora. Let's go, Jim Desmond, for chair. Come on, Jim. We're with you. Woo! 2 minutes is great, isn't it? Better than 30. And I'm not infringing on anybody's rights, so this is my time to speak.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
Barbara Gordon. I am here today to share the California Department of Public Health newly released report and recommendations prepared by an independent panel of 13 scientists and clinicians that are experts in the marijuana industry. It documents the fact that high-potency marijuana has overtaken California and the national market and summarizes the serious association health risks, particularly for vulnerable populations. These findings and recommendations are important because they highlight the importance that politicians and policymakers understand and act on the fact that marijuana market in California is very different than it was decades ago, when many people thought this drug was largely harmless. To address these risks, the panel recommends 20 targeted policy actions. Some include capping THC content, fully prohibit flavored inhaled products, requiring plain packaging, strengthen and enforcing marketing restrictions, strengthen and fund public education on the risk of marijuana use. These findings underscore the need for stronger consumer protection and policy framework in the marijuana market. The city has passively allowed the shift of these high-potency products, which has caused significant harm, especially to young people. It is time to change course. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from our final caller this morning.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors, and Happy New Year. My name is Terry Ann Skelly. I'm a parent, a public health educator, and a county planning group attendee. In November, the Surgeon General released a report titled, and I quote, "Eliminating Tobacco-Related Disease and Death, Addressing Disparities," end quote. The overall conclusion that tobacco takes a higher toll on less advantaged people is not new, but needs to be carefully regarded when policies regarding smoking and vaping are considered. Here in California, Stan Glantz, faculty member at the University of California, San Francisco School of Medicine in the Division of Cardiology, stated regarding the report, and I quote, "It is important to recognize the growing number of cannabis in undermining tobacco control and contributing to health disparities, especially given the prevalence of tobacco and cannabis co-use in youth and young adults, and the social, economic, and health disparities associated with chronic or daily use of marijuana or tobacco use, which is a grave concern for public health educators who work on behalf of 18 to 30-year-olds and who parents 18 to 30-year-olds like myself. Protecting all county residents from exposure to secondhand tobacco and cannabis smoke in all indoor and outdoor settings should be a priority. Regarding the availability and advertising relating tobacco and marijuana should be a priority in our county as well. And 2025 would be the best time for our county to consider an emergency ban of marijuana and tobacco smoking and vaping in all public places. Thank you for hearing my concerns this morning.
Thank you. And Vice Chair Lawson-Remer, that concludes a request for non-agenda public communication this morning. Again, all the remaining speakers will be heard at the conclusion of today's session.
Thank you very much. The next item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes and statements of proceedings for the session on December 10th and December 11th, 2024. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? So we have a motion by Supervisor Anderson and a second by Supervisor Montgomery Steppe. Please vote.
Vice Chair Lawson-Remer, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting aye.
Okay, thank you. So we now proceed with the formation of the consent agenda. That's items 2 through 4. As a reminder, all items on the consent agenda will be acted upon with one motion. Individuals will be able to comment on the consent agenda after the supervisors pull and comment on the items they would like for discussion. Would any of my colleagues like to pull any items for discussion or have comments on any of the items on the consent agenda? Supervisor Anderson.
Not at this time. Thank you.
Supervisor Montgomery Steppe. Supervisor Desmond.
No need to pull it. I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion by Supervisor Desmond. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, and a second by Supervisor Anderson. We will now turn to public comment. As a reminder for all the speakers, your comments have to be related only to those items specifically on the consent agenda. So that, again, is items 2 through 4. Non-agenda public comment is the time to talk about everything else. So we now turn to the public for comment. Is there a motion to approve the consent? Oh, sorry. We now turn to the public for comment.
Thank you, Vice Chair Lawson-Remer. We have 14 requests to speak on items on the consent calendar, consent agenda, 7 in person and 7 requesting to speak by phone. Any individuals that requested to speak on items on the consent agenda by phone, please dial into the conference line using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll begin with the in-person speakers. As your name is called, please come forward and stand on the arrows until it is your turn to speak at the podium. I'll be calling you in groups of 3, so please listen for your name. I'd like to invite forward the speakers in favor of items on the consent agenda. First, I'd like to invite Mark, Cesar Javier, and Catherine Rhodes. I've called your name. Please come forward. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board, and I'll ask you to please begin by stating your name for the record. Also, when speaking, please identify which items on the consent agenda you are speaking about.
Mark, 2 and 3. 2, I'm actually for, yes, compensating the workers. Unfortunately, I have a feeling that some of the administrative workers will get much, much more than the people doing the real work, but I'm not sure of that. Various appointments. So, number 3, Tara's got some appointments, and I do not agree with any of Tara's decisions. Well, actually, I mean, most of them probably don't matter much. Arts and Culture Commission, there are little things you can do to use that as propaganda, but mainly I'm concerned with Health Services Advisory Board, especially since you guys recently voted for something that said that homeless people could be treated against their will, which will probably mean pharmaceuticals, and held in jails for being homeless, which means basic slavery in our modern day, real, actual slavery, where they're taken for being homeless because you, Tara, who supposedly are an economic advisor to the Obama administration and an expert in this field, never told anybody that stopping inflation by ending the Federal Reserve, and which causes inflation. You never did any of this. It's totally negligent. Yes, it's not within your purview of power here to control that, but it is your responsibility to state that it needs to be done for all the things you're trying to do, including this. So, yeah, I'm against your reappointing whoever you are for the Health Services Advisory Board, and he might be good, I don't know, but since you're appointing him, I don't think so. You're a total tyrant, and 1 minute for agenda items is not correct. Our only chance here is that Jim becomes the chair.
Next speaker, please. Cesar Javier or Catherine Rhodes, welcome to come forward in any order.
Cesar Javier, yes, I support this item number 2 with the assumption that it is responsive, adequate, simple, timely, efficient, effective. Compensation not described by money alone, but something else, something intangible, something that wins the hearts and minds of the Americans, the public. Look what happened to our case. We suffered many years, my wife, me, and our neighbors. This compensation should be realized. Not only money, mom's tip, but justice. I am now restrained for speaking up in the city meeting, in the Sandag meeting, in the air pollution control meeting, and in my playing of my radio of preaching religious exercise, and the use of my jackhammer to dig the soil, river kind of soil, ground, where I could put more trees to, absorb this toxicity in our neighborhood. Why? Why was this thing happening? Bad rule, bad implementation, and therefore we should be compensated. Again, not only money. Make us trust you. Make us love you. Love our neighbors. Help our neighbors. I think the lady attorney here is hearing my petition. let's be wise and honest who will be ever the chairperson in this presidential position. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. The next speaker is coming forward. I'd like to invite the speakers in opposition: Alan C., allegedly Audra, Paul the Bold, and Consuelo.
Hello, Catherine Rhodes, and I'm actually, item 4, I'm actually not in favor, and this is specifically for our clerk, Andrew Potter, and our county counsel, Claudia Silva. This right here is item 4, the agenda item. None of the links work. That means I can't download any of the documents. That means you shouldn't be, basically it's not working. You have a new system right now. The system is not working properly. For this one right here, of course, my favorite document that I can't see is the periodic financial report for November 2024, where I usually look at what the ARPA funding is, how much is left. You know, I think there was 100 million left, and I wanted to see what the update here was, but I can't. So I don't think that you should be voting on anything for item 4. I think you should bring it back item 4, and I think you have a special meeting on the 14th. So it's really item 4, and it's also item 5 that I'll talk about during the closed session, because the links do not work. That means we can't have a discussion on any of these items. The other item that I wanted to see was, the first one, of course, was CR 15, the Auditor Controller, County of San Diego Periodic Financial Report, on page 3 of 4. And then CR 14, the Chief Administrative Officer, Final Report on the Enterprise of Homeless Services Assessment. I want that report. Why can't I see that report? Can somebody do something? When I get to the number 5, what happened is it seems like the links do not work on this, and it seems what you did is you scanned it. Instead of having the links work, you scan the documents so the links don't work. So I don't think you could actually do anything in closed session. Thank you.
Just for a moment, thank you for those are great questions. It's a cause of concern if the public can't access important public documents. So, Andrew, if you could please update us on what's going on with that.
Thank you, Vice Chair Lawson-Remer. Yes, our IT contractor, Peraton, is working on the issue that Catherine noted with the communications received list. However, those documents are available to the public. Catherine, you can email our office. We'll send those over to you as quickly as possible. They are available as well as hard copy in our office.
So the links are being worked on, and in the meanwhile, people can email the office.
Absolutely.
Okay, yes. Thank you very much.
Hi, Alan C. I'm going to focus on item 3, appointments. There's a saying, appointed judges who are not approved by corrupt politicians get borked. There's also what happened to crooked politicians who are now called get Fletchered. We know what we're talking about. Okay, concerning these appointments, I'm going to focus on health and inhumane services. I live down in Chula Vista, the county health and inhumane services down there. Let me tell you a story about them. Our director needs to take notice. They get a whole packet of goodies, free cannabis, thank you taxpayers, medical cannabis cards. They walk across the street, there's a blood donation, $400 for 4 pints of blood. They don't care if the blood's drug tainted, they dump it down the drain and get the tax write-off. Further up the streets, not 1, not 2, but not 3, but 4 tents of California free phones so you can do your drug deals. Further up the street, our city council, not 1, but 2 cannabis stores right across the street from the women's gym, Planet Fitness, right in the Target parking lot that locks up $3 soap. That's where they get the drugs from. And by the way, that cannabis shop runs that entire parking lot. And there's drug deals going on right there, a couple of cars where they get the drug deals from the $400 they get from the blood donation center. That's what's happening with your cannabis health and inhumane services, whoever's taking that position. But that needs to be looked at. Because the city of Chula Vista had to fence off the entire area, and we finally got Harborside open, but not full time. It's only open from 3 to 7. So the working class people down there by Harborside, that's the only park that does not open from sunrise to sunset. Why? Because all the druggies down there, because of all the health and inhumane services programs that magnet them all down there, along with the California free phones, the free blood donation, everything else that happens down there next to Costco down in Chula Vista. Look at that. Let's do humane services, not only for the people, for the community. I yield back.
Next speaker, please. Audra, Paul DeBold, or Consuelo, any of those speakers are welcome to come forward.
Okay. Number 3, appointments.
Can you please state your name?
Paul Bold. Sorry, I thought everyone knew me. These are matters of public interest. Appointments and sole source contracts with their potential for fraud. Ordinances, both first and second readings, in case anyone gets ideas on the second time around. And they all should be in the discussion section, not buried in consent with a number of other items. I mean, sometimes as many as 21 or 25. They should not be buried in consent along with those. So please avoid an over-reliance on unproven or unreliable technology like BESS also when making these appointments. Number 2, the ordinances. Given the cruelty to the artesian road horses and other animals and the disregard for their defenders, I do not think the chief veterinarian needs $248,000 a year. You want to retitle the position sewing machine supervisor to vocational textile instructor. These word games remind me of the BIPOC word game. It means black, indigenous, people of color. It's used to single us out for special treatment and divide us. I used to consider myself an ASHIB, meaning all shades in between, sort of the opposition until I realized that I'm actually indigenous somewhere, not sure where yet, and I'm definitely a person of color. I invite any of you to see through me. If you can't, I have color. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Yeah, so Consuelo, I just wanted to say how, yeah, that's really scary. Speaking on 3, regarding just, government coming in and against the people's will, administering whatever it is they feel they should. And it's just scary. But I guess I'm just up here to remind the people that, the government is in fact just a business with no incentive to deliver agreed upon services because their customers pay them under the threat of incarceration. And we've seen that here. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have. I'm done.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
My person uses the name Audra. Number 2, absolutely not. No compensation to people who are involved in human trafficking and crimes against humanity. HHS is the biggest traffickers of children that we're paying to traffic these children. 8 million children go missing every year around the world. It's interesting, nobody likes to talk about it. And over 500,000 children that are migrant children, unaccompanied minors, have come across the border, and they're unaccounted for. It's interesting, right? Thank you, HHS. And also 800,000 American children go missing each year, and 500,000 of them don't get reported. So until we're going to address the fact that this is happening and that you guys are all complicit in it, you are not in the right sound mind place to actually make that kind of decision. And when HHS is sitting here giving bioweapon genocide shots to the people and nobody wants to address it, you just want to say they work, it's good, right? It's good. And as we have the bird flu coming in, I'm sure we're going to have more vaccines that are going to be distributed to the people. So until we solve those types of problems, you should defund HHS. That's what needs to happen until they address the fact that these children are being trafficked on our dime. When is that going to matter? Does it have to be your daughter, Tara, that's trafficked for it to matter? Because they're actually being raped right now. Yeah, every orifice of their body is being penetrated, but why does that matter, right? Because it's not you guys. It's interesting to see what God you guys serve, and it's the God of this world, and it's very sad because you will all suffer the consequences from the real God.
Thank you. We'll now hear from those that requested to speak by phone. We will start with our first caller.
Gambler here. How you guys doing? Well, due to the fact that Nora's leaving for whatever reason, and it could be the fact that the cartel had her under control, which means most likely they rigged the election by that, which means they probably have 2 or 3 of you guys under that control. We need to really do, before you guys vote on anything at all, we need to do a full audit of our elections to verify. Let's go with the cartel theory of Nora Vargas. Let's go with the cartel theory. Full audit of the elections, because I believe through the homeless population, people are using registration voter fraud to get people elected, like Tara and Monica, that are keen about that. And I believe that they are also under control of the cartel. But they don't have family in Mexico, so, you know, they don't need to quit necessarily. But, you know, they do have family here. And cartel loves to go after family. So I love the fact that Trump is going to shut down the border, and you're going to have major, tough decisions to make for who you actually work for. And good luck with your family, because I know how the cartel handles problems. They take out the family and they take you out last. So congratulations on fucking us over completely, because you guys wanted to hide election fraud and do whatever the fuck you wanted. We're all fucked because of it. Thank you. You're an asshole. You can't fucking understand shit. You're fucking cunts. And I don't care about your fucking rules. Okay? You don't give a shit about my questions. You don't care about looking into voter fraud at all. So why the fuck do I care about what you guys have to say?
Thank you. Next, we'll now hear from the next caller.
It's truth. Item 2, adding labor standards to the title of the Office of Ethics and Compliance is making a biased political statement. The chief veterinarian is going from $182,000 to a $248,000 max. What has anyone at DAF done to earn that kind of pay? ABC 10 just reported that animal abuse and cruelty cases are at an all-time high. You guys have failed animals. That's clear with the network horses in Rancho Santa Fe. Item 3, noted terrorist picks of Jeanette Shelton to the Committee for Persons with Disabilities. She's too political, being the Torrey Pines Democratic Club secretary. That may even be a conflict of interest. Molly Weber to the Planning Commission, also too political, being the former campaign manager for Chris Ward, Todd Gloria, and Bob Filner. Greg Anglia to the Social Services Board, the CEO of Big Corporate Interface Services, who told lies that Prop 36 would cause homelessness rather than fighting theft, which enables drug addiction and homelessness. Christine Custodio Suero to the Commission on Women and Girls. She's a self-proclaimed change agent and received a training certificate from the Socialist United Nations. Noted Joel's picks of Victoria Floyd to the Health Services Board. She's an advisor to Joel. That's a conflict of interest. Peter Smith to the Ramona Cemetery District. He's a consultant to the extremist Ford and Guggenheim Foundations. Noted Jim's pick of Pamela Nelson to the Warner Springs Group. She still works for the censorship-promoting National Conflict Resolution Center. That's how we got here. Item 4, CR2 is a grant agreement between the county and the Public Health Institute. So-called experts working with so-called immigrants with the lying CDC and USAID minions, as well as with Engender Health, a former racist eugenics sterilization league. Public Health Institute also has a messaging guide that says building narrative power. One place where narratives are reinforced is news coverage. Sounds like propaganda. CR 14 is wasted county resources on the CAO's office trying to come up with something to justify Tara's fight back against corporate home buyers and Wall Street landlords. Political theater item. Waste of money. That's Ace who supports Paloma, isn't it, Tara? We know it's...
Thank you, Vice Chair Lawson-Remer. That concludes public comment on the items on the consent agenda.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a motion by Supervisor Desmond and a second by Supervisor Anderson. Would we have any comments before? Yeah. Okay, Supervisor Desmond.
And Andrew, your response to people could email your office for copies or hard copies, is that anywhere forward-facing to the public if the links don't work? Is that, where can they find out how to even email you? Is that information available?
Thank you, Supervisor Desmond. Just to clarify, the issue that Ms. Rhodes brought up is only related to item 4, the communications received list. So under the board policy, we're required to have the communication received item on the agenda. The board's action is to note and file the items that are on that list. We go above and beyond that and traditionally have posted, as part of that list, links to the individual documents. We have a technical issue that Peraton has been working on since last week to try to address to make those available. We do have, throughout our website, have information on how the public can contact us through public comment at sdcounty.ca.gov. Contact me directly, but we have lots of different ways for the public to contact us if they're having difficulties with any of the materials that are available.
But is that I guess, if you go and you download the agenda, you take a look at it, is it anywhere there that it says, hey, if the links don't work, email?
We do have a statement on the agenda homepage that says if you are experiencing technical difficulties, email us at publiccomment@sdcounty.ca.gov.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Desmond. Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Please vote.
Vice Chair Lawson-Remer, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting aye.
Okay, thank you very much. So now our next agenda item is board committee reports because we do not have any discussion items. At each meeting, we will create opportunities for every member of our board to share any brief updates or reports on progress. So does anyone have any updates or reports on progress from any of your subcommittees or boards that you serve on that you'd like to share today? Okay, seeing none, we will now resume with non-agenda public comment. Andrew, can you please call the remaining individuals that requested to speak during non-agenda public comment?
Thank you, Vice Chair Lawson-Remer. We have 16 remaining requests to speak on matters not listed on the agenda, 7 in person and 9 requesting to speak by phone. For those that requested to speak by phone, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll begin with the in-person speakers. As your name is called, please come forward and stand on the arrows until it is your turn to speak at the podium. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board, and I'll be calling you in groups of 3, so I'll ask you to please listen for your name. I'd like to first invite forward Michael Brando, allegedly Audra and Catherine Rhodes. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board. Again, please state your name for the audio record.
I used the name Michael.
You're playing right into their hands when you sort of like, oh, the vaccine. But take credit because we saved tens of millions of lives. Take credit. Don't let them take that away from you.
Okay, so the president made news.
You agree with that, right?
Both the president and I are vaxxed, and did you get the booster?
Yes.
I got it too. Okay, so...
Don't. It shows you how unpainful that vaccine shot is, so everybody go get your shot.
It works incredibly well, 95%, maybe even more than that. It works incredibly well.
I recommend take the vaccines. I did it. It's good. Take the vaccines.
The vaccines do work and they are effective. I think I saved I know I saved millions and millions of lives throughout the world.
Many of us are frustrated with the nearly 80 million Americans.
Okay, I played that because most people like to think in terms of red and blue, Democrat, Republican, but what we're actually dealing with here is systemic narcissism, sociopathy, and psychopathy at all tiers, including this man who was making all these crazy statements about the bioweapon serum injection that people are now suffering with advanced cancers and other illnesses that are turned on inside their body. A remark about Tara. No, I will not be coming to your little round table, Tara. You've had 5 years to course correct. You know exactly what needs to be done. What you're doing is actually an example of narcissistic abuse hoovering, meaning you're trying to rope people back into your game, and people that are aware of this aren't going to play. Also, I highly recommend this woman over here, Claudia Silva, be fired. It would be actually great if she actually left the region. She makes over $500,000 a year, probably close to $600,000 a year, and she's terrorizing people with these rules that are against the U.S. Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hello, Catherine Rhodes, and I actually want to talk about on the 14th. You're going to talk about who you're going to, what you're going to do, and I recommend that you do option 3, where you appoint somebody, because it might be until June. I think it said June 1st or July 1st before you're going to actually get somebody in. So you're going to have 5 months of only 4 of you. So I'm saying that please think about putting me on for 5 months. You don't know how much great I could do. Even though I live in District 3, I could move to District 1, and I think I could do so much good for you guys. I know where all the money is. What I really know is everything about the city of San Diego. I know all the ins and outs. I know how they steal the money and hoard the money. You know, one of the things, of course, I want, and I did my email to Andrew Potter in public comment for the links that do not work and what I'm looking for, the periodic financial report. But for the one for that you had last month, you still have like $198 million in the ARPA funds. And remember, you have to spend it by the end of the year. What I would do if I were the District 1 person is I would ask all of you if we could use that money to pay off the toll road, because it would be justice for the poor. This money is supposed to be for justice. The other thing I would do is I would, with Supervisor Lawson-Remer, because it would be in her district, to see if we could get the Silver Strand State Beach. We could do it. Remember, I came up with the idea with the VASH vouchers. I've done so many legal things for the city of San. I did the Sun Road building, 20 million saved. Thank you.
As the next speaker is coming forward, I'd like to invite 3 additional speakers: Flower Alvarez-Lopez, Michelle Zay, and Paul the Bold. If I've called your name, please come forward.
My person uses the name Audra. It's interesting that you guys, we're in a super sanctuary. And, Tom Homan said he is going to come to San Diego. So it would behoove you guys to get out of that super sanctuary. Like Jim, when I said we should do something to get out of the sanctuary status, and you said, there would be no support behind me, and it wouldn't be worth my time. It's not impactful enough, which is very strange, because that allows all the things that are happening to happen. And you guys realize how many people have died making the trek here and been raped along the way, right? I mean, because if you care about migrants, as you call them, you would think that that would actually matter to you guys. But it doesn't. But it would behoove you, Jim, to bring forward some kind of resolution or something, ordinance, to get us out of the super sanctuary status, whether or not you're going to have this support, because it will show why the people should support you, instead of acting like, well, what difference would it make? And then you vote through $500 million for the people to get an attorney. Yes, you did, because you said that you couldn't bifurcate the vote, but you still voted it through. See, those are the problems when you should be standing against and saying, don't let them strong arm you. You should say, I'm going to stand against the budget, even if all of it is in there, instead of just capitulating because they won't bifurcate the vote. Because the people need a strong leader, and if you're not willing to be one, then you shouldn't be chair. But if you're willing to do what it takes, then maybe you should be.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good morning. My name is Flower Alvarez Lopez. I am the co-director of Universidad Popular, proudly based in District 5. I'm here today to share organizational updates and extend invitations for upcoming initiatives. Universidad Popular looks forward to engaging with each of your offices throughout 2025 as we continue our work in the community. The first one is Fuera Migra. Universidad Popular is a proud member of Fuera Migra working group dedicated to uplifting immigrant communities in San Diego County. In these upcoming weeks, we will be scheduling meetings with each one of your offices, and we look forward to that. My next update is on open-air detention sites in San Diego. I want to bring the attention to open-air sites that continue to operate within our county, specifically along the border region in District 1 and in District 2. Our organization remains actively involved in monitoring these sites and providing humanitarian assistance to those in need. I do want to acknowledge Supervisor Jim Desmond. I believe he is the only member of this body who had answered our call to make an official visit to these sites. While we may not have been aligned with the narrative shared by D5, we acknowledge and appreciate this supervisor taking the time to witness the conditions firsthand. Also want to put on record our Cesar Chavez Day of Service 2025 on April 11, 2025. We're proud partners with Cal State San Marcos, Restoration Albi, and Community Action Group, EDCO, and other community leaders in honor of the legacy of Cesar Chavez. Together, we host a day of service featuring community cleanup to reflect his commitment to service, social justice, and civil rights. Again, we want to thank Supervisor Desmond for his support and participation in the past, and we warmly extend this invitation for anybody interested in joining us on April 11th. Also, quickly, naturalization. Thank you, Tara Larson-Reamer, for providing certificates for our graduating students and our new voters. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hello, Paul LeBold. Congratulations to those who participated in the election process. And I would heartily endorse or second the application of the previous speaker to be on the board. District 1 needs representation now. We shouldn't have to wait while you're debating or whatever the actual election. I also hope that the procedures will be made to conform with the Cali Constitution and Brand Act. And I hope that you read thoroughly Section 54954.3 of the Brand Act, which allows criticism of your actions. As part of the Constitution, Article 1. County government stuff, on the other hand, is in Article 11. Section 3. A county or city may adopt a charter by majority vote of its electors voting on the question. A charter may be amended, revised, or repealed in the same manner. Provisions of a charter are the law of the state and have the force and effect of legislative enactments. San Diego is a chartered county. It takes a bit more than the legislature just passing a new law to change the charter. Section 1B, the legislature shall provide for county powers. Each governing body shall prescribe by ordinance the compensation of its members. Please ask before raising your own pay.
Thank you. As the next speaker is coming forward, I'd like to invite the final speaker in person, Consuelo.
Hi, my name is Michelle Chai. I'm here with the RevCom Corps for the Emancipation of Humanity. We face a very serious situation in this country with a fascist regime coming to power in 2 weeks, going after millions of immigrants first and crushing any opposition to this from sanctuary cities, counties, and states. We see this in the sheriffs here vowing to collaborate with ICE in open violation of sanctuary policies and state law. And we see this in the legal and physical threats against Nora Vargas and the fact that she resigned for her own safety. This should be a wake-up call, not just for San Diego, but for the whole country. This is a time for courage, a time to defend the rights and lives of the people under attack by Trump MAGA fascists, whether they're immigrants or public officials who are trying to protect immigrants. We are here today to declare, in the name of humanity, we refuse to accept a fascist America. Instead of hoping the normal channels of this system save us from disaster, instead of looking out for yourself first, as the revolutionary leader Bob Avakian said, it is time for collective action and self-sacrificing struggle for the greater good of defeating this fascism. On January 20th, when Trump gets inaugurated, this needs to be met with mass protests in San Diego and nationwide that is serious about building a movement so massive and powerful that it creates the kind of political crisis that prevents that Trump fascist from implementing his whole fascist program. We RevComs are fighting against fascism as part of the fight to get rid of this whole rotten system which spawned this fascism and bring into being a much better system based on the Constitution for the new Socialist Republic written by Bob Avakian, a system which would welcome immigrants who want to contribute to building a new society.
Thank you. Thank you. Your time is up. Thank you. Your time is up. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Can we please be respectful to each other and not disrupt the meeting? The next speakers should proceed to the front.
Consuelo,
Thank
the
you.
final speaker.
Okay, Consuelo here. One way you might want to start a revolution is by showing up to every one of these meetings and checking out how this government actually works. And no, I'm not a Trumper or a Republican or an evangelical Christian. I am a thinking human. So get involved. You really want to start a revolution? Get involved. You ain't got to be in a group. I'm in no group. I do this for my kids. Anyways, with that being said, I wanted to, yep, I got it.
We're going to pause your time. Just pause your time.
Okay.
Just a reminder, please address the board.
Got it.
And not the members of the public.
Got it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I wanted to start off with this guy. A man by the name of Manly P. Hall. Oh, maybe not. Hold on. No. Yeah, leave. Leave. It's all good. Yeah, it's all good. And that's the reason why the revolution will never happen, because you can't even stay for a whole meeting.
Consuelo.
Got it.
This is your second warning.
Okay, got it. Got it. Dang it. I had something I wanted to play. I got time. Shoot. So funny how people want to have a revolution, can't even stay for a whole meeting. This is a short meeting, too. Anyways.
Who goes to school has no idea why humanity exists. He has no idea concerning a spiritual factor in material existence. He has no general comprehension of the rules of life as these differ from the rules of social and political structures. He does not know where he came from. He does not know why he is here. And he has no idea where he's going. And on this compound ignorance, we offer degrees and make brilliant scholars of the people who have never answered any of those questions. It is one of these amazing things.
Thank you. Well, thank you. We'll now hear from those that requested to speak by phone. We'll start with our first caller.
Good morning, Oliver Twist here. I'm asking you again to recognize and commemorate the sanctity of human life, historically celebrated during the third week of each January. Specifically, I'm asking you to fly the Sanctity of Human Life flag, which I am happy to provide to commemorate the sanctity of human life. It seems a natural segue coming just a month after the Human Rights Week, which was celebrated this past December via a presidential proclamation on December 9th. The United Nations Declaration of Human Rights tells us, quote, "We need to stand up for our rights and those of others." So I now ask you to continue to demonstrate your commitment to human rights and the sanctity of all life. I'm also asking you to please plan to light up the county building with white lights sometime during the third week of January from the 19th through the 25th. Now, Tara has offered to discuss civility and how we can make these meetings better. As much as I would like to believe your intent is sincere, your past actions have shown otherwise. What is saddest and most ironic is that the three progressives who came from activist backgrounds themselves have been the most inclined to shut out people and to enact double standards, clapping for thee but not for me. So if you're sincere, 4 actions to start would be: 1, rescind the no clapping rule; 2, restore the 2-minute speaking time; 3, restore non-agenda comment for both sessions; and 4, enforce the rules equally, as was not done for the meeting insurrection on April 30th. And as a reminder, we the people are not pesky things that get in the way of governing. We are the reason your jobs exist. Until you change these 4 things, your words will ring hollow. Thank you.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
Thank you. Good morning, Board. My name is Kathleen Lippett. I'm a researcher and advocate of sound public policies, drug policies, and I'd like to bring greater attention to the failure to acknowledge the role that marijuana plays in preventing health and safety problems in the same way that tobacco has. Tobacco is finally recognized for the role that it played in being one of the largest preventable causes of disease, disability, and premature death. But that does not, smoke is smoke, and ignoring marijuana smoke does not help bring greater health and safety to our public. Primarily, smoking does cut into the relatively healthy middle years, and smoking pot can increase cancer risk, speed up aging, and harm your future children. Tobacco smoking has decreased, but there is an ongoing failure to acknowledge that smoke is smoke, and smoke-free venues should always apply to both tobacco and marijuana. The city of Carlsbad led the way by adopting a smoke-free housing law that did include both. Smoking is also expensive, and it creates health disparities. Because of that, it's economic problems that it causes the public, especially those who can least afford it. A carton of cigarettes in California can run up to $92 for 200 Marlboro cigarettes. And according to the CDC, smoking harms nearly every organ of the body, the leading cause of premature death. Please, in the future, please make sure that all smoking policies include both marijuana and tobacco. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Kevin Stevenson. First, I would just like to say that it is not exactly ideal news to hear that Nora Vargas is no longer going to be the chair. It was pretty disappointing when I read the news on my phone, but I'm also not surprised that something like this happened, because we need to be real and acknowledge the fact that things are getting really bad. The threats are real. And for our elected officials here in California to get Gestapo-like threats from the likes of Tom Homan and Stephen Miller is unacceptable. To the woman who cheered that she resigned earlier, F you all the way, because that is not what we need. We don't need people resigning because they're being threatened. We need people standing up to the Nazi-like thugs in the Trump administration. We are not going to let these far-right authoritarian tyrants bully us into letting them do their mass deportation, white ethno-state dream. We should not tolerate this. I know that we're going to discuss next week about what to do in terms of filling the seat for District 1. I would personally encourage a special election because I do believe that's the most democratic means of getting a new elected official. But for now, I just want to leave and say that the threats have got to stop, and we got to stay vigilant because 2025 is going to be a wild ride, and we got to stand up, fight the power. Don't let these fascists bully us around.
Thank you. Hear from the next caller.
Hi, good morning, members of the board. My name is Megan Stewart, and as someone who works with youth and in the world of public health, I'm here to express my strong opposition to the establishment of cannabis consumption lounges in our county. This move poses significant public health risks, not only to patrons in these lounges, but also to employees, community members, and employees of nearby businesses who may be exposed to secondhand and third-hand marijuana smoke. Marijuana consumption lounges would roll back the critical smoke-free workplace protections that have safeguarded workers' health for decades. It would put employees and nearby patrons at risk of constant secondhand smoke exposure, which has many similar health implications to tobacco secondhand smoke. Workers in marijuana lounges would be exposed to toxic chemicals daily, along with those in neighboring businesses, as marijuana smoke and aerosol can seep into units from other units where smoking or vaping may be happening. Amanda Ryman, Vice President of Community Development at Flow Cannabis Company and an internationally recognized cannabis expert and public health researcher, stated cannabis has been consumed socially for a long time, but when considering the licensure of social consumption lounges and events, we should assess the potential environmental harms, including air quality and exposure for consumers and workers. Protecting the health of the citizens of San Diego requires proactive measures, so I would like to respectfully encourage the board to consider the broader impact that this would have on public health and reject any proposal that would allow marijuana lounges here in San Diego. We have an obligation to protect our workers and our community from exposure to secondhand smoke. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
One moment. In the chamber, if we could please stay in our seats and not whisper and talk. It's disruptive. It's hard to hear the speakers. So I appreciate that people were whispering and not shouting. That was very respectful, but even the whispering makes it hard to hear the speakers, and especially the standing up. Thank you.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
Hello, this is Kelly McCormick. I'm a public health educator, and I would like to encourage you as we begin this new year to adopt policies that fulfill your duty of promoting public health and reducing costs related to public health. Smoke-free multi-unit housing policies protect residents from exposure to unwanted secondhand smoke and aerosol, particularly important for children who are more sensitive to smoke's harms, including permanent respiratory damage. I also ask that you recognize the role that high-potency marijuana plays in mental health disorders and other serious problems, including cannabis hyperemesis syndrome, also known as cyclical vomiting with extreme pain. In San Diego County, an average of 39 people a day are seen in hospital emergency departments related to cannabis use and a diagnosis related to marijuana use. And the numbers are particularly high for children who are exposed to edibles most of the time without their knowledge. The average age of these children is about 5 that are seen at Rady's Children's Hospital. So we could reduce our costs and use the money better elsewhere elsewhere if we were to reduce the number of people experiencing problems related to marijuana use, especially high-potency products. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Now hear from the final caller.
Truth, again, Nora did not leave for safety. She fled because she and her voice couldn't hack the meetings anymore. And she timed her fleeing in order to fix the loss for Galicia. Next, regarding the December 10th meeting discussion of item 36, I have a question for County Council. Who's been effective in 1 minute, Claudia? Who? Are you referring to Paul, who can't physically fit as many words in 1 minute's time as I can? Why do both Tara and County Council engage in disability discrimination? And Tara, respect is giving people 2 minutes or more to speak. Anything less is intentional disrespect. And if you really cared, why didn't you publicly schedule something ahead of time? See, I don't require a political theater powwow with you because you've proven over and over and over again that you don't care what anyone has to say. My only words for you, leave. And if your unlawful made-up sanctions only apply to individuals, not a group, then I'm going to start a group, and we will hold sit-ins, just like SEIU and UDW did on April 30th, that resulted in a meeting shutdown, for every single meeting until 2 minutes speaking time is restored. If the chair chooses to suddenly not allow so-called sit-ins for groups, then this would prove discrimination and arbitrary enforcement, paving the way for a lawsuit win. Since 2020, tensions have often been created by these supervisors based on how the meeting is run, including contentious items added to overstacked meeting agendas, the agenda rearranged at the last minute, items withdrawn from the agenda after people waited hours to speak to it, the public not allowed to pull any item from stacked consent calendars. When people speak, every supervisor, excluding Jim and Monica, disrespectfully look down the entire time. Frustrating, inconsistent speaking time. People interrupted by the chair simply because the chair either couldn't personally understand someone's comments or didn't like the content of their speech. And that includes not holding time, which is against board rules. Because of this and more, civic engagement has waned as people feel their voices don't matter. But what's funny is that you fascists couldn't handle 1 day of comments from the people of Chicago. People in San Diego are incredibly polite by comparison. You guys should actually feel honored to have this level of stability. Resign, Tara. Now, please.
Thank you, Vice Chair Lawson-Remer. That concludes requests for non-agenda public comment.
Okay, thank you very much, Supervisor Anderson. Vice Chair Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to bring to our attention that over the last 4 years, we've had callers call in and call out members who are in the audience and speak directly to them. And I like that you focused on they should be directed at us in what we do. But I just want to point that out because as we move forward, I think consistency, no matter what that policy is really important. So for our new member, Monica, you may not have been aware that in the past that occurred. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's a great point, and I think we have to be consistent moving forward, and that is my commitment, so I appreciate your partnership in that, Vice Chair Anderson. Thank you. Okay, moving forward, we now have item 5 for closed session. So, Andrew, if you can please call the public speakers for the closed session items.
Thank you, Vice Chair Lawson-Remer. We have 10 requests to speak on item 5, which are closed session matters, 6 in person and 4 requesting to speak by phone. Closed session agenda includes 13 matters that are listed under item 5. Individuals that have requested to speak on closed session matters must provide comments related to the matters listed in the closed session item. Otherwise, your comments will be considered off topic. We did not receive any e-comments on the closed session matters, so any individuals that requested to speak on item 5 by phone, please dial into the conference line using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll begin with the in-person speaker, starting with the individual in favor, followed by those in opposition. As your name is called, please come forward and stand on the arrows until it is your turn to speak at the podium. I'll be calling you in groups of 3, so I'll ask you to please listen for your name. I'd like to invite forward Catherine Rhodes, followed by the speakers in opposition, starting with Audra and Paul DeBold. Because there are 10 or more speakers on this item, you'll have 1 minute to address the board. I'll ask you to please state your name for the audio record.
Hello, Catherine Rhodes. And so you have 4 different items that have anticipated litigation, C, J, K, and L. So that means I could talk about anything because you don't say what it is. So the first thing I think you might be talking about is Todd Glory pushing that Hope and Vine for 1,000 shelter beds. It's going to cost, I don't know, $60 million or some ridiculous number like that. I forgot what it is. Going to, people who are going to make a lot of money off of this when they bought it for cheap. Or you could be talking about, like, let's just say maybe those sexual predators. We could put them on county land in District 1, right next to, in Otay Mesa, right adjacent the prison. You have all the space right there adjacent the prison. We could put a tiny home for these people right there at the prison where they would actually be able to be watched. And then say to everybody in each district, they find an area also. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Pro bold. Speaker says F you to a private individual. That is what the mute button is for. 8 active cases, 4 possibilities in a labor negotiation, 13 items in all. That is probably a result of ignoring the people's wishes. Like when you have 102 speakers on an item and all but 1 are opposed, yet you vote in favor. This is costing money, and I think you have to start thinking seriously about the possibility of lawsuits from the citizens we seem to make more resentful or openly irate, it seems, every chance you get. And the number of half-baked ideas on the agenda may be keeping some of you too busy to attend to the people's business. And I hope the union doesn't want to aggravate the deficit. Thanks.
Thank you. As the next speaker is coming forward, I'd like to invite the remaining speakers in person. Next speaker is Audra. I'd like to invite forward Consuelo, Alan C., and Mark.
Okay, Consuelo here. Since, there are no specifications, I wanted to talk about what's happening with our roads, what's happening in Sandag, what just passed and is implemented in New York right now, people having to pay and being penalized to drive, paying, going down certain streets in Manhattan. That is around the corner for us, people. And that is not a threat. That is what's so. That is soon going to happen. These 15-minute cities and these things being penalized for driving is their plan. We're already getting tickets for parking in a non-red area in our county. Or in our state, I think. Is it our state or our county? Yeah, state. So it's just like all these things, and people, you have to get that they move incrementally. You have to get, they're not gonna like, bam, bomb us with all these changes. It happens slowly, bit by bit.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hello, Alan C. If you can indulge me, I'm looking at this form. I guess we're looking at going to online only to register to speak.
Alan, that's not in the closed session agenda.
Yes, but I don't know what I'll correlate, please. This is litigation if this passed through because people who don't have online access, you're denying them, and then how are you going to do the queue if people register online and the people show up?
Alan,
yeah,
sorry,
but please
I'm gonna pause.
consider that.
It's we're talking about that. Can you start the time?
Yeah, okay.
When we talk about, let's just clarify, right? Okay. If we're going to talk about items that are on the agenda, it needs to be not just generally litigation in the abstract, it's the specific items listed on the closed session. So if you want to talk about that, that's a good comment for non-agenda public comment. So, yeah, I know. That's why I think we're trying to have a little bit of a reset. So in the future, okay, thank you.
Okay, anyways, going back, concerning this, the Zoom is what I'm pushing for. When you have these closed sessions, please, I'm talking about the closed session. When you have these closed sessions, why don't you put a Zoom video? Why don't you put a Zoom video for teleconferencing for everything? Because by doing that, it does 2 things. One, it puts you where the public can see. The public cannot interrupt, but the public should be able to see. Video fed out, Zoom, where we can see what's going on. Because that's very important. Because if you want to have open or dial, whatever, let us see what's going on. Not to interrupt, but to see. That's how you make it fair.
Can I just take a moment and have our counsel respond to that as to explaining why we have a closed session and why it would not be possible to have a video?
So the closed session is the opportunity under the Brown Act to meet in in a non-public setting to discuss matters within the allowable exceptions, which are generally confidential communications related to anticipated or pending litigation and other enumerated items, which could impact the ability of the county. For example, if it were to be public, it would impact its ability to negotiate, its ability to resolve, and ability to address those matters in a way that are in the county's best interests.
Okay, thank you. Next speaker.
Next speaker.
My person uses the name Audra. I just want to make sure you can hear me because you said when people stand, it's hard to hear. So should I sit down or is it okay? Can you hear me? Yeah?
Audra, please address the item on the agenda.
Thank you. Thank you, Tara. I wanted to ask for transparency and accountability if your session over in the other room is going to be after closed session. So we have to wait.
It will be before closed session.
Oh my gosh, Tara. That is so sweet of you. That's interesting. You're going to make the whole board wait. And all of you guys should actually come. That would be beneficial to the public. But for anticipated litigation, I'm just wondering, like, could it possibly be you silencing the people? Or maybe it's the 5-year-old little girl who was raped and you guys decided that by protecting her predator and pedophile, that it's safer for her. So I'm just wondering, maybe her family is going to sue the shit out of you guys for allowing that to happen and not giving a crap.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Want to call for Mark?
Mark, regarding D, Project for Open Government versus County of San Diego. This group is against government corruption, malfeasance, and there's so much corruption that happens on this board. It's and also they talk about you're being unconstitutional in their litigation, which you completely are. The whole idea of the Second Amendment, and that you guys have completely gone against it and infringed upon our right to bear arms completely. And of course, the criminals don't obey laws, so you're not going to stop them at all. Your ghost gun laws were ridiculous. That would have made it possible for poor people in poor areas to defend their families. Of course, the real criminals and the cartels will be printing guns 24/7, and they don't care what you say or do with the law. In fact, they'd be happy to be very against you, to put it nicely. So many other things, but taking away the homeless's.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the individuals that requested to speak by phone. We will start with our first caller.
Truth Case M, where those politicized unions like SEIU try to negotiate more money out of tax-paying county residents. They think it makes things better for workers, but it actually just expands government and costs everyone who doesn't work for government more of their tax dollars. Everyone suffers under communist-like pyramid schemes. Case D, Project for Open Government versus the county. This case is due to Tara trying to censor people's right to redress their government. Tara should have to personally pay for this litigation cost. County Counsel Claudia should also have to personally pay the other half of this litigation cost. That is an amendment to the Constitution that I will promote in the future so that no more corruption will be footed by innocent people. And of course, anticipated litigation in cases J, K, and L. These are likely all more lawsuits due to Tara's unlawful actions. And for those who voted yes to December 10th, item 36, you're going to also be held liable for damages and impeding a meeting and denying access to meetings. Because fraudulently claiming that 2 separate meetings with 2 totally different topics are suddenly now 1 meeting on 2 different days is an unlawful scam. This is why I know Tara is going to go to prison.
Thank you. Vice Chair Lawson-Remer, that concludes public comment on the closed session matters.
Thank you very much. So now we move to item K, adjournments in memory, as this concludes the business before the board today. Today's adjournment will be presented by Supervisor Desmond in memory of Bill Straw.
Thank you very much, Madam Vice Chair. The Brian Stroh, Valley Center resident, he was active community participant. Unfortunately, just recently passed away on November 29th of 2024 last year. In the comfort of his home, right after sharing a beautiful Thanksgiving dinner with his family. His adoring wife of 47 years, Julie, was by his side, along with their beloved bulldog, Wilson, and she shared these heartfelt words after his passing, that he is in glory with his strong, perfect, pain-free body with Jesus. His two amazing sons, Troy and Trent, and their families brought him endless joy as he considered them his greatest blessings. Brian enjoyed the outdoors, including surfing, snow skiing, and water skiing, and houseboat trips to Lake Powell with the family and friends. He exemplified hard work and commitment to family and community, and built his life on a strong foundation of integrity, faith, kindness, and generosity. Brian was an entrepreneur at heart, and he started his own commercial construction business, and he also created the first drive-through coffee trucks, bistros, and built a cherished family cabin on the edge of the Trinity River, which became a family retreat for years. Brian's faith was the cornerstone of his life. He was a prayer warrior and a kind listener and a steadfast friend. Brian's legacy reminds us of the values that truly matter: faith, family, kindness, and service. Our deepest condolences to the entire Stroh family, friends, and the Valley Center community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We will now proceed to closed session. I will meet folks first in that room if you want to have a chat. So closed session, it's 11:30. Do you all want to take a little lunch before? Do you want to go, Jim, would you rather do 12:30 or 12 for closed session? 12:15. Okay, we will reconvene in closed session at 12:15. Thank you.
The board will now recess into closed session at 12:15 to consider those matters listed under item 5 on today's general legislative session agenda. If there are any reportable actions, they will be reported out during the land use legislative session of this meeting tomorrow, Wednesday, January 8th, 2025.